everyone. Welcome to Grab a Stack of Rock. Can you hear me okay? Audio, test, test.
What? I can't. What did you say? I can't see you.
Thanks, Mr. Darling. That's an inside joke. Hey, Jex Russell. Jex Russell in the house. Speaking of Jex Russell, I am dedicating today's episode, Music and Mental Health Part 2, to Jex Russell, who today took a massive step in his mental health journey. The very first Music and Mental Health episode was his idea, and the sequel was Johnny Metal's idea. So thank you, Jex, for sort of inspiring this series, I guess. It's a series. There's two. That makes it a series. So thank you, Jex, and welcome to the fireside. Grab a stack of rock. And welcome, Johnny
Metal.
Glad to
be here, bro. Glad to be here.
So today we're going to be talking about music. We're going to be talking about our mental health journeys. We're going to be following up some stuff we talked about last time. There's a saw that you can probably hear behind me. But anyway, let's get to it. A month ago, you, me, Jex Russell, and Tim Derling all got together and we talked about mental health. And we talked about all kinds of things such as, I think there were three of us, maybe all four of us, had to take at some point in our lives a sabbatical from work. And my understanding is, Johnny, that you are returning to work at this point.
I have. Yes. This week was the first week back. It's basically just a part-time position right now. So we'll see what goes on. But it's getting my feet back in the workplace. So that is a good thing. With a company that's on for their it's a thrift store, so I'm basically using their audio, or not their audio, their online shipping department. So kind of helping in the shipping department, starting to learn a little bit about entering the stuff, taking pictures, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I don't have to work with the general public, which is a good thing for the general public, and definitely a good thing for me. So yeah, so that's been so far is a good fit so far.
When I took my sabbatical from work, I came back part-time. I was working half days and then became 3/4 days before I was back on the full days, and they kind of eased you back into it. Henry, thanks for joining. I hope my audio is sounding better. There is a saw in the background that started. So I wanted to kind of go in 4 rounds. I have 4 topics that I want to talk about personally, and I assume that you kind of have something to follow suit.
I can come up with something.
Okay. Would you like me to begin, or do you want to begin?
Go for it.
Okay. So I've broken this down into 4 sections.
Well, maybe I should start with something. So, okay. So I've already talked about the job and all of that. So that's been certainly a blessing. You'll just nod your head if you put that video out where I talk.
No, not yet. That episode was postponed due to Ozzy's.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So there's this little belt thing behind me. Let me bring a closer look for you. But the champ is here, as John Cena would say. So what this is this is from the DDPY Transformation University. It was a course that they do through their app or website, and it gives you something to think about each month. So what's your why? Why are you doing this? Okay, and then at the end of the month, you get to reflect on it. You also get to record you're doing 2 workouts a month. That's always fun, especially if you don't have enough things to use and stuff like that. And Chris, I will say this sucker's heavy. Those championship belts ain't no fooling. They've got some weight to them. You probably noticed there's a couple of autographs on there. DDP himself autographed it for me. His co-conspirator, the guy they call Yoga Doc, and Dallas's wife Paige. I got them to all sign it. So Transformation University is basically saying, okay, how are you focusing on not just the rat and physically, what kind of food are you putting into? If you might notice, maybe just by my face and my build a little bit here, yeah, I'm down a little bit since the beginning of the year. I'm down probably about 40 pounds. So, I was pushing 247 or whatever, and the scale said 204 something this morning. So I'll take it. Can't wait to get back under 200 pounds again. Anyway, so the government center in Smyrna, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta, and I got to meet a number of other fellow graduates, some older than me, some about my age, some a little younger, all kinds of ages, and all kinds of great stories, really inspiring stories. And so I was really happy that I pushed myself to do this. I got to hang out with a couple of old friends that I've known for 8 years through the program. They went through it too. So all in all, it was just a lot of fun. It was kind of sad in some ways because, we're only 2 days removed a workout on that Thursday with Dallas. Well, my phone's blowing up. Yeah, we get to notice Hulk Hogan dies. What the heck? Yeah. Thank you, Chris. But yeah, it was, I don't know, go figure. But it was, we were just hoping that nobody was going to talk about that to Dallas in live, and thankfully nobody did. They pulled him off to the thing, and Paige's Dallas's wife and everything. Yes. Blah blah blah. I'm rambling here a little too much because you can tell I'm a little excited about all this. But so I'm doing this a second semester. I'm going to do the same thing, record workouts, turn all that stuff in, and hopefully I can get to see a bunch of friends again later in the year. So that's my first round of mental health help and other things like that.
Awesome. I'm told that my audio isn't good. Maybe I should change microphones. How does my audio sound to you, Johnny?
I mean, I can hear you fine. I don't know what it sounds like out there, but I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I'm going to do my first section here with this microphone, and if anything happens, we'll change microphone.
Okay.
This first section, Chris Sarr will be able to relate to because he remembers. I think my journey with problems with mental health probably started in childhood. This is a section I call "Just a Boy," named after the Kiss song.
I'm just a boy.
Too young to be sailing. Ever since grade school, I felt different. I felt unique. I felt, oh, thank you, Henry. Sound is better now. Probably because of the saw. I'll mute myself when the saw starts. There's actually 2 saws going on 2 different places right now. I never fit in, Johnny, and the bullies seemed to hone in on me. And a lifetime of bullying, it was 9 years. 9 years in grade school, a lifetime of bullying, essentially.
Yeah.
It changed me dramatically. I didn't trust people. I always watched my back. I was always suspicious of people. I was always defensive, reactionary. Sometimes you still see it in the comments. Like if somebody says something that I find mildly taking a shot at me, I will go at them. And that's from that defensiveness from being bullied as a kid. And Chris Sarr was there. Chris Sarr remembers. There was in the 8th grade, and I just want to say right away, this is nothing against Catholic religion. This is nothing against religion, Catholicism, anything. It's just the setting. I went to a Catholic school, and part of grade 8 was an all but compulsory retreat at a place called Mount Mary. We would go for a week. It was all, when I say all but compulsory, what I mean by that is the teacher lectured us and said that every student that she had that didn't go to Mount Mary, that elected not to go to Mount Mary, ended up dead or on drugs. So that's a wonderful message. So we went to Mount Mary, and I had to spend a week with the kids that I hated. Not Chris Sarr. I did not hate Chris Sarr. But Chris knows who I'm talking about. And, these are people that picked on me relentlessly year after year after year, made me cry in school. And I had to spend a week with them. And it affected me in a deep way. Many years later, in 2020, actually, just before the pandemic hit, I started to seek counseling because I have a lot of stress in my life just as being a caretaker of a sick person, a chronically sick person. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I work a stressful job as well. There's no, a lot of jobs are stressful, especially when you have customers and bosses. So I sought counseling in 2020. And one of the first things that we did is my counselor advised me to write a letter to my childhood self. And because I am different and because I am unique and because I can't do anything, I can't color inside the lines. I couldn't do that. I couldn't write a letter to my childhood self. So I tried to think of a different way of doing it. And what I did, and you can read this on my blog, it's a story called Just a Boy. And what it is I wrote a fiction story. I'm going to get emotional here. I wrote a fiction story about time travel. The present day me traveled back in time to grade 8. And that's all I'm going to say about it because I'm going to get emotional here, but I've been letting loose all of these emotions from this time period, and music was a huge part of it. And I wish I'd brought the Elder album with me. And I just want to say, absolute respect to Texas Troy here for coming out and saying this. If you knew somebody who's drinking way too heavily, mental health being the reason, what would be your suggestion? You're in Texas, I'm in Canada. So here we have lots of free services that you can call. But I don't know what you have available, but my suggestion would be to maybe call a church. They can usually direct you in the right place. I don't know if AA is the kind of thing you're looking at, but a church might be able to point you in the right direction. The Elder. That week that we went to Mount Mary, we couldn't bring with us any candy. We couldn't bring us a Walkman. We couldn't bring anything, a book, a comic book, nothing. I listened to The Elder 4 or 5 times that weekend before I had to go to Mount Mary, and I fucking memorized that album. And it was what I had for music with me on that trip. And it helped get me through. But, once I got through on the other side of that trip and I realized, grade 8 was going to be ending soon and these kids were going to be out of my life soon, then that changed a lot. I had unusually good high school compared to grade school because I didn't have those bullies. And Mark Zimmerman was in high school with me, as a matter of fact. He was one of my friends in high school. So thank you, Mark, for your friendship through high school. He relocated to Germany. Isn't that amazing? So what else did I want to say about this period of my life? I think that's about it. If you are dealing with something from childhood, maybe try something like what my counselor suggested, writing a letter to your younger self. And the idea is to show your younger self kindness. Mm-hmm. Maybe you feel like you were weak. Maybe you feel like you wish you could have said something or done something different. The idea is to show your younger self kindness.
Right.
And maybe unload some of that baggage. And that's all I have to say about that.
So let me add some stuff to that. So I know, you and I can relate to that whole thing. And no problem, Texas Troy. Thank you. Anyway, I mean, I was bullied a lot throughout elementary into junior high school, and and there was one kid in particular who just was relentless with me, and I finally just had enough of him. And, in junior high school, where our school was, if you told somebody, meet me on the hill, you knew you were going to get a throwdown. And that's usually because there were fights all the time. Well, we finally settled that, and he never bothered me again after that, because I just came out all guns blazing. And if I could have done some WWE moves, I would have done that too. But so I know about that. You think about the Elder, and you think about what what the story behind the elder really is. I mean, okay, it's really a little convoluted, but there is a story based under there, and it really probably you probably related to it extremely well when you
Probably
really
subconsciously, because I didn't have a lyric sheet. I just had it recorded. I literally recorded it off my neighbor like a few days before.
right.
So I didn't have time. I needed that music. I needed Kiss with me. And you hear this a lot about this band because they're a band that tended to skew to younger audiences. So you hear a lot of stuff about how, Kiss saved my life and that kind of thing. And it's true.
5, 6 years old, and I'm begging my dad to get Dressed to Kill because I thought those guys looked cool. And he did. And well, you see that Destroyer super box set behind me. Of course, I pulled the Elder out here a minute ago. Wish I had all those my old Kiss albums, but I won't go there. But yeah, I mean, man, I can relate to what you said. By the time 9th grade came along, there were certain friends I just hung around, and that's who I just gravitated to. My good friends Mike and Dave. I've told many a story about them, and that's what carried me through until I had to move to Maryland when my parents took a job there. But then I graduated from a different high school in my senior year, and I got along great with those kids there. So it was good. I mean, sure, it helped I was dating somebody. That didn't hurt. But I mean, I got along great with the kids, and I blended in better with them. So it worked out. It worked out for the better. But yeah, I can relate. I can relate to all that.
Cool. Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, man.
I too had that grade 8 confrontation with my main bully. Chris knows. I'm going to fucking say his name. Who cares? Steve Hartman. Steve Hartman was a little fucking shit. And he had it in for me ever since grade 2.
Yeah.
Grade 2. So
Yeah.
from grade 2 to 8. And I remember we had a fight somewhere around grade 6, but it was never the definitive ending fight. In grade 8, I said, I've had it. And we met on a baseball diamond. And I dragged his ass all over that baseball diamond all night. I don't know if he landed a single punch. And eventually, like, I didn't want to hurt him. Okay. Like, I didn't want to hurt him. So I went kind of easy on him, but I needed to end the fight at some point. And I don't know where this came from, but all of a sudden this Shakespearean like speech came out of me as I like pummeled him for the final time. I got on my bike and I said, well, that's it. You're done. I said, you're a fucking loser, and that's all you're ever going to be. And then I rode off on my bike into the sunset, and I cried as soon as I got home. But
yeah,
I remember I got to school the next day, and one of the other kids said, that thing that you said about him being a loser and that's all he's ever going to be, you were right. And I am right.
Yeah.
I am right. Steve, Chris knows.
Well, with me, the guy that was like a tormentor for me from grade 2 to grade 8, I'd say somewhere like the mid 2000s, he reached out to me on social media, and man, we've been good friends ever since. He realized how much of a jerk he was being, and I owned up to my own things, and as we've gotten older, we just acknowledged each other in our life, and I'm happy to call him a friend now. So it's all good now, but hope not everybody grows up.
No.
Some people still like to be the jerk that they were in school, or if it's a girl, then they're probably still the prissy, airhead blonde or whatever type person that they were that you hated back then too, or obnoxious or whatever. But yeah. And I also
my guy hasn't changed. He's the same.
He's still the same.
He's still the same.
Well, my guy, he can still be a bit of a jerk, but he's not a jerk to me. He's just, I think his way of being a jerk is just he just has a really awful sense of humor, but it's all good. That's just his personality. But the writing the letter thing, man, I did that for myself a few years ago with different people. I think I wrote a letter to my young self. I wrote a letter to my high school girlfriend that had passed away in '90, and I can't remember who else I've done that with, but yeah, it really was cathartic to do that. I first heard of that from, I've talked about if you go on Grants Rock Warehouse's channel, when you're watching the different year channels where we're doing our top songs or whatever, there's been times I've mentioned a particular artist. Yeah. I always mention an artist named Rich Mullins, a Christian artist.
Yeah.
And he had a retreat with an author named Brennan Manning. He was known for writing a book called The Ragamuffin Gospel. And he took Rich on this little retreat, and I think by this point Rich's dad had passed away, if my memory serves me correctly. And I think there was just a lot of baggage from there. And he said, "Here, take this pad of paper, write a letter to your dad, and just keep." And I think there was times he says, like, I heard this enormous wailing, crying going on during this writing, and how cathartic it really was for Rich. So yeah, it's a good thing when you can do that. So anybody that's out there, if you need to do stuff like that, it not only is it a creative way of dealing with some of your baggage, but boy, it really helps you in so many ways.
To bring it back to music and hopefully get a laugh out of you, I know you did a series on a band called Accept.
Yeah, a little bit.
They have a song called, I think it's the song Losers and Winners. Write a letter, you'll feel better. Write a letter.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's your music connection.
Very good.
I'm going to bring it on to topic number 2 now.
Okay.
This is a section that I call Tears of a Clown. So for this section, we're going to show off an Iron Maiden album. Mm-hmm. Also tying into 50 Years of Iron Maiden, which is still airing tonight, by the way. This is not replacing 50 Years of Iron Maiden. We're still doing Virtual 11 tonight with Jake. But Book of Souls album had a really remarkable song on it called Tears of a Clown. And that song, Maiden, as they grew, they really started doing different kinds of lyrics. They weren't all songs about Alexander the Great anymore. Around the time of Virtual 11 and the X Factor, they started writing songs about ordinary people. And this is a really different kind of lyric. But Tears of a Clown is about Robin Williams. All alone in a crowded room, he tries to force a smile. The smile it beamed, or so it seemed, but never reached the eyes. Disguise, masquerading as the funny man. Do they despise? It's powerful stuff when you really think about how many guys out there are entertainers, comedians, and they have demons inside that are... I don't know why people that are so gifted in comedy.
Just you and me. Look at what we do.
Yeah. No, I'm not an entertainer on the scale of Robin Williams, but this is what I try to do. You and I, we both try to bring some entertainment to our friends, to strangers. And Dan, I don't remember. I think I kept a lot of this from them. That's the way I remember it. My
parents were. Oh God.
Maybe we'll come back. We'll circle back to that because part of Johnny's journey is that he hasn't really been doing a lot of the stuff. No, we're not going to play any Enough's Enough. There you go. Yeah, I told my parents though the night that I had that fight with Steve Hartman because I broke my watch fighting him. I told my mom and I burst down into tears. Thank you, Mark, and thank you again for your friendship during high school. I was fortunate enough that high school was okay. Right. Grade school was hell. High school was okay. Heading back to Tears of a Clown, I think one of the issues, especially going back to when you and I were younger, is that there's this fallacy in society that we have to be men. We have to man up. You can't be feminine. You can't have feelings. You can't cry.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Yep.
Pull yourself up by... How many times have you heard that? And it's honestly BS.
Yep.
There's when you hold your feelings in like that, when you're holding your personal damage in like that, it's only going to hurt you in the long run. And it's going to come out in the form of violence or substance abuse or something worse. Who knows? But you need to express these feelings. You need to get them out. You need to talk about them. And I'm only here to support. I'm not here to judge anyone. These are not easy subjects to talk about. Look at me. I told you that I saw a counselor in 2020 while I was 38 years old and 48 years old. I was 48 years old in 2020. Oh my God. You know, it took a lifetime to get where I am today, and I'm still learning. I have a new counselor. Actually, I had a period where I didn't have a counselor that I think was very effective for me, and it's all about fit. We might have talked about that in the last episode. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's very important to find the right fit. And I right now, I have the right fit. His parents are aware, but yes, exactly. Exactly. No, you're not alone. You're not alone. My parents would have had my back if I told them.
My thing is, what was it about me that kids wanted to bully me so much for? That was my only.
I don't know.
That I look back on that. I'm thinking, what was it about me as a kid? Did I
attracted them like magnets. They sensed me. I don't know how. Later on in high school, there was this group of kids that I used to pass every day on my way to school as I was walking to school. And they don't know why, but they just honed in on me. They're total strangers. I don't know why. And then later on, and I'll tell this flat out, I don't care. This is over 20 years ago, so I don't care now. But when I was working at The Beat Goes On, the regional manager there was a total bully. And I've written about her before. Mm-hmm. She was a total bully. She picked on me almost exclusively. People came to me and said, I can't believe the way she treats you compared to other people. And I don't know why she honed in on me. I really don't, but she did. Yeah. And it was bullying because I received treatment unlike the other people. And eventually I was forced to quit that job. We're going to talk about the band Blotto tonight, but they have a song called I Quit. You can't fire me. I quit. And that was eventually what happened. Like they were looking for any excuse to fire me. This woman was, you know, putting stuff on my reviews that she wasn't putting on other people's reviews, even though their stores were in worse condition than I was. So I quit. There was one last straw. She broke that last straw and I quit. And I was working again within 2 weeks and I've never been happier. Right. So, you know, don't be afraid of escaping these situations. Don't be afraid of escaping a situation. It happened twice in my life. It happened in grade 8 when I graduated and went to high school. I'll tell you another story about that. Again, not a knock on Catholic high schools, a knock on this one particular teacher who Chris Sarr already said was terrible. She scolded me in class for not going to a Catholic high school. I chose not to go to the Catholic high school because I wanted to get away from these kids. And it just so happened that my best friend, Bob, who I've talked about on this show many times, he went to the local public high school. And he was 2 years older than me, so I knew I wasn't going to have any classes with him. That was never a thing. But my teacher, in the middle of class, in grade 8, shame on you, she said to me, picking a high school because your friend goes there. Shame on you. And I was like, I'm not having any classes with my friend. He just happens to go there. I'll see him at lunchtime. You know? And she was like that. And Chris Sarr, I feel for him. I feel for him. And Chris Thus is referring to we used to get in prank wars, but it was all in good fun.
Right. Well, you know, talking about the work thing, mine wasn't so much of a bully thing for me. It was just, you know, when I left that job I had for God, I mean, I've been through a couple different owners, but the last I don't want to badmouth the owner, but he had no interest in being he didn't have any interest in being an owner operator. You know, if you're going to run a business, you got to have people to work it. And if you're not even going to participate in just helping out when you're losing good people either to death or to other things, you got to step up. And if you're not going to step up, then what's the point of you running a business? And I got to a point where I'm like, I'm having to do too many things that I had no idea what to do. I wasn't trained to be a manager. I wasn't trained to do back office things. And I'm having to do all of these things, plus rely on, I hope I can pay for something for, you know, if I needed supplies. And I didn't know what I was going weeks without figuring out what card can I use, dude? Come on, I gotta get this stuff because we don't have anything. That's when my breaking point finally came, and then I started hearing voices in my head, and I don't know if I've really talked much about all this, but I'm just gonna come out now and just say it. I had voices in my head, and they were telling me, look here, see, look at why business is not where it should be. Look how you are towards people. Look how you are towards your fellow employees, or, I'm stressed out. I'm anxiety ridden. I didn't know what else I could be throwing out there. And I'm like, I'm not getting any help. I'm not getting anything to back me up. So these voices were making a lot of noise in my head, and then the coworkers finally tell me, it's like, we're kind of afraid of you a little bit because I would lose it too quickly. And I mean, that's just because I was, that'd be like saying, if you're stressed out about something, I'll give you an example. Say Chris Sarr comes up to you, he can tell you're stressed out, and he just tells you, take a breath. Mm-hmm. You know what I would want to do when somebody would tell me that, if they saw I was stressed out? I'd want to haul off and hit them. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you have no idea what I'm dealing with. Mm-hmm. All of this stuff is still here. Taking a breath doesn't help. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was my work situation. It wasn't necessarily a bully thing, but maybe in all intents and purposes, who knows? Maybe it could have been looked at that. Anyway,
I think all of the stuff is cumulative if you don't deal with it. So any past bullying becomes the lens through which you see your mm-hmm. present, and this is what I deal with ongoingly. Quick to anger, quick to jump to conclusions. All of that.
Yeah,
all of that. And speaking of voices, that's not unusual. That's all I'll say is that's not unusual. Mm-hmm.
It's just, but also, it's just sad when some people, especially when you're dealing with mental health.
Yeah.
And those voices start talking too much, and they convince you of other things. And those people aren't here with us anymore.
Yeah.
Reach out to us. We can help you. We can help you with those voices. Just give me 5 minutes or something.
Someone can.
Someone can.
One last thing I want to say as part of this section. This actually came from Darcy Briggs. Darcy said, and this kind of relates to voices a bit, but Darcy said, sometimes your inner critic, that voice inside your head that says you're not good enough, you can do better, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes that's one of the biggest obstacles. And I feel that. I'm currently feeling that because, as you know, I am currently grieving the loss of my grandmother, who was 101 years old. And I will be speaking at the funeral, and I will be the only speaker at the funeral. And I have to write a speech, and I am experiencing writer's block. And there's this pressure because I told you many times, I want this to be the best speech I've ever written for her. And that's pressure, and it's just jamming me up, right?
Right.
And you know what, Texas Troy? I'll tell you something. There's a lot of mental health stuff in a lot of heavy metal lyrics. We talked about it in our first episode with a lot of these Iron Maiden lyrics from the Blaze Bayley years and from the Blaze Bayley album War Within Me. And again, on this in Tears of a Clown. And I think there's a relationship there that needs to be addressed. But when I get to my final topic, we'll kind of talk about how I have a section that I'm calling Radio Saved My Life Tonight, named after the Bon Jovi song, but we'll get there. Getting back to Darcy, the inner critic, that pressure that you put on yourself is sometimes one of the biggest things. And I feel that I'm not a perfectionist anymore. I tend to let things slide if I'm satisfied or if it's functional, but I used to be a bit of a perfectionist. And I know my wife is a total perfectionist. If it's not 100%, then it's 0%, Right. Although I think she's letting that go too. That was one of her issues, but nobody's perfect. Everybody has some kind of screw loose that is their thing, is their quirk, is their struggle. Everybody does. And maybe in some cases it drives them.
Yeah.
maybe in Robin Williams, it drove him, whatever his inner voices were telling him, maybe they drove him to entertain, to make people laugh, to lighten the world where he saw darkness. I'm speculating here.
Yeah.
I know Robin Williams also had a neurological disorder as well, which also drove him to eventual suicide. But certainly Robin Williams is not the first entertainer to go down that horrible path. There's so many. There's a long list now,
Way too long.
In the music realm, we not that long ago lost both Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington. So, yeah. and I know Chester Bennington again. He's another guy that was in a lot of physical pain, and there's often a connection between the physical and the. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Sometimes the physical is connected to the mental, because if you're not well physically, it's harder to be well mentally. And kudos to Johnny Metal for doing the yoga thing. And I'm going to talk about the physical thing a little bit when we get to my final chapter of this story. But my third chapter of the story that I want to talk about is dedicated to my good friend, Mr. Broadway Blotto. And Mr. Broadway Blotto sent me an email that I'm going to read from our last mental health episode. Broadway said this: "My hat is off to you, Mr. Kitchener." He calls me Kitchener Blotto. "You, Jex Russell, Johnny Metal, and Tim Derling did an incredible, phenomenal, magnificent job on the mental health episode of Stack. Aside from being a great service to your viewers and compatriots, the commenters were very appreciative. The fact that all four of you disclosed personal struggles and offered words of hope and encouragement based on your own life experiences is, in my book, nothing short of heroic. Thank you. Each participant brought great insights and helpful directional signposts to the table. For such a sober topic, the pace was upbeat and far from maudlin. And because all of you are individually so relatable in your rock and roll wackiness, your message was that much more effective. Very impressive. Keep up the great work. 5 stars. P.S. Great fireplace." Unfortunately, the fire is out, but I did get the fireplace on the show. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for making me laugh. We do want this to be, we do want brightness here.
Yes.
And here's some brightness. Blotto, man. So what happened was in 2018, Jen's mom was dying of cancer, and Jen and I were the only family nearby.
Right.
So it fell upon us to be the prime caretakers. And Jen was traveling to Toronto every day or 2. I was traveling to Toronto every day or 3. I'm not a driver. I do not enjoy driving. If you are Canadian, then driving the 401 into Toronto is akin to taking your life into your hands every time you do it. But I grew nerves of steel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it just so happens that one of Jen's mums, whose name was Debbie, one of Debbie's last wishes for me was to go to Toronto that summer with my good buddy Aaron, who you probably have seen Aaron on the show. Go to Toronto with Aaron to do our annual record shopping excursion. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Go, Michael, go be with your friend." So Aaron and I went to Toronto in 2018, and I came home with an album on vinyl called Combo Akimbo by Blotto. And the reason I bought it was because I remembered that song Metalhead from the 80s, and I always wanted it in my collection. I didn't know anything about Blotto, nothing at all. Didn't know what kind of band they were, what kind of music it was, no idea. You can't really get a clue from that, what kind of music it is.
Yeah.
And I put that vinyl on my turntable and played it, and it clicked. And it became the album that I played the most on that drive down to Toronto, which again, it was like once every 3 to 4 days. Unfortunately, I'm not a trained person either, Chris. But anyway, we're listening to this album. Sometimes I'm in the car alone. Sometimes it's Jen and I together. And we're listening to this album, and it's making us laugh. In the hardest times of our lives, this album is making us laugh. And every song is great. I'm being sincere here. I'm not saying this because I'm biased towards Blotto, which I confess I am. But every song is great. This is every song is great album. But there was a song on there in particular called It's Not You. And for some reason, this one tickled our funny bone. It's about a guy who's breaking up with his girlfriend because it's her family that he can't stand. So there's some lyrics in here that just made us laugh. I'm afraid that I'm not good on the spot, so I have to Google the lyrics. I should have prepared. I bet you I can't find the lyrics online. It's not something that is easy to do. It might hit you like a bolt from the blue, but after last night, I must tell you that we are through. It's not you, it's your family that I can't stand. And then he goes on about all the different things about her family that is driving him to break up with her. But the chorus is, it's not you, don't blame yourself. It's not you, no one can help. It's not you, I can't be your man. It's not you, it's your family that I can't stand.
Oh boy.
And it tickled our funny bones so much. It made us laugh. And, you know, I do sincerely owe it to Blotto for helping us through that horrible summer of 2018. I call it the year without a summer because it was spent in hospital waiting rooms and cars. And these guys made me laugh when I didn't think it was possible. There was one day in particular where I was doing really, really bad, and I took the afternoon off for like a mental health day. Right. And I went home and I ordered a pizza or something like that. And I was like, I'm going to find out more about Blotto. I'm going to find out more. And I found this video on YouTube called Blotto Tonight at Toad's Place. And it's a short, maybe 7-song concert with an interview in the middle. And my God, it made me laugh even harder. And I was like, that's it. Blotto's my new thing. These guys are making me laugh on like one of the worst days of my life. These guys are my thing. And it so happened that I wrote about this story, and the drummer Lee Harvey Blotto reached out to me and said, you want a t-shirt? I was like, yeah, sure. I'll take a t-shirt. Yeah, man. Sending me a t-shirt just because I like your band? Okay, cool. And this has led to an ongoing correspondence that continues to this day. Broadway emails me, you know, once a week, once every couple times a week. And I just want to say we're going to take a quick break here. I'm going to run a video as I take a quick breather and a sip of my drink. But Blotto have a movie out, a documentary about their career called Hello, My Name is Blotto, the movie. And I interviewed them back in February. The movie is playing in Long Island, New York this weekend. You can go to the Blotto Facebook page for more information. But by all means, if you have a chance to check out the Blotto documentary in some way, shape, or form, please do. These guys are freaking hilarious, and they can't help but brighten your day. So we're going to take, I think this is about a 2-minute trailer. We're going to take a 2-minute break. Check out this trailer for the movie, Hello, My Name is Blotto, and we'll be right back.
If you're a Blotto fan, you aren't going to want to miss this.
This is Blotto.
I think that they were the ultimate crowd pleasers.
Blotto! And when my phone rings and it was Blotto, 100%.
I wanna be a lifeguard. Here they are, Blotto.
In the pre-Blotto days, we were the Star-Spangled Washboard Band.
Destined to take their place alongside the Immortals, the Star-Spangled Washboard Band.
We played, and we played, and we played, and we played. Then we broke up.
They didn't want to stop playing. Somehow we came up with the name Blotto.
Next thing I knew, we were Blotto.
People come up to us and said, you are the funniest band I have ever seen.
I think we had more than most people expected.
They're making it on the strength of the airplay in the area, their personalities, and their music.
Blotto was one of the first bands ever played on MTV.
And then MTV just skyrocketed.
Really caught on, you know, we had a really crazy following.
That lifeguard song, if you didn't follow music, you still knew that song.
You're not going to believe this. We're getting played on MEW.
We were gods. Suddenly we were gods. We played and we played and we played and we played.
Everybody wanted them. They were booking out of town.
The new one is Metalhead.
Some got the joke, but others did not.
They think we're making fun of them.
I think Atlantic Records is going in a different direction than Blotto.
Every label said no.
It's not a disco act, it's not a country act, it's not a rock act, it's not a comedy act.
I think it just sort of burned itself out.
I mean, we didn't know what Blotto was, but we certainly knew what it wasn't.
Then everybody went home and got real jobs again.
You know, we never really broke up.
We would continue to relive the glory days.
We'd get on stage and we would have fun. That was intense fun.
Okay, so we have lots of people who don't know who Blotto is. So as Henry said, from Albany, New York, back in the 80s, there was a TV commercial for a compilation album called Metal for Breakfast. Remember that? The guy Metalhead, and he had the bowl of cereal, and head goes right in the bowl of cereal, and it had all kinds of cool bands on it. Blotto, Metalhead was one of those songs. It was a video that was played on Much Music in Canada. In the United States, I Want to Be a Lifeguard by Blotto was the 36th video ever played on MTV, and it became a bit of a hit. Metalhead became a bit of a hit. Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult is in the video for Metalhead. He plays the guitar solo on the song. They are a damn talented band. They mix comedy and music in a way that reminds me of, I don't know, the classics. These guys have a classic back and forth banter that is just natural. They consisted of lead vocalist Sarge Blotto, guitarist and singer Broadway Blotto, guitarist and singer Bowtie Blotto, bassist Cheese Blotto, and of course, drummer and lawyer F. Lee Harvey Blotto, Esquire. And they're a fantastic band. Unfortunately, both Cheese and Sarge are no longer with us, and therefore the band is no longer performing, but they just in 2025 released this fantastic documentary movie called Hello, My Name is Blotto, the movie. Go to their YouTube channel, check out some of their music videos. I Quit, I Want to Be a Lifeguard, Occupational Hazard. I think there's a music video for that. Great band. Not a metal band, but a great band, and extremely, extremely talented musicians. I'm not kidding about that. Listen to the rhythm section of Lee Harvey and Cheese. They're absolutely magnificent, and they are just so naturally. Not exactly, no, but the name thing is the same. Actually, there's a really funny clip in the movie where they talk about getting their new. I think he primarily played keyboards. Chevrolet Blotto. And there's a funny scene where Broadway says, we auditioned Chevrolet primarily on the strength of his last name.
Well, you know, it's you got to take the Spinal Tap and go a different direction with it, you know. So why not? Hey, I think
this is before Spinal Tap.
It really was actually when you say that. Yeah, because
this album
that was '83, I guess. So
yeah, their album Combo Akimbo came out 2 years before Spinal Tap. And they had their singles like Lifeguard that came out before that.
Maybe Spinal Tap ripped them off.
Maybe Spinal Tap. It's actually a very different thing than Spinal Tap.
Yeah, totally.
But it is a very funny thing. And sincerely, I think if people gave Blotto a listen, I think they'd really like them. It's just they were impossible to market because, as they implied in that trailer, you know, what are they? A comedy band? Are they a music group that plays comedy? Are they a comedy group that plays music? The answer is yes. And at the end of the day, like I said earlier, they made me laugh. And they have a song called The B-Side, for example, where the lyrics are literally about how the song on the B-side of the record usually sucks, and it's the A-side that you want to be listening to. And then you're probably not even listening to this right now.
Hey, I liked some B-sides of some 45s I used to have. I'm just saying.
Variety band. Yeah,
variety
very
band.
much. That's actually a good way of putting it, because they did play a lot of these variety shows, like the Mike Douglas show. Yeah. So that's my third section. Did you want to say anything before I go into my fourth and final section?
Go ahead with the fourth section. I'll let you defer to that one.
Okay, so Texas Troy, this is where I bring up Bon Jovi. I call this section "The Radio Saved My Life Tonight," and the reason I call it that is because sometimes music is necessary for guys like Johnny and me to remain sane. And there have been many, many, many times in my life where I've sought music to sort of soothe an unhappy time in my life. And the most recent time that this happened, and I wish I brought some of their albums with me this time, but I think the last like serious mental health crisis that I had was probably 2023, summer of 2023. Without getting into too many details, I had a friend who our friendship disintegrated, and it disintegrated in a very public way.
Right.
I was very angry. I'm sure a lot of that aspect of my childhood, of the bullying, of being reactionary, of jumping to, that immediate conclusion of, somebody doesn't like me. that kind of thing, it just made things worse. And I was afraid to tell my friend, listen, I have some concerns about our friendship, and we need to talk and just clear the air. And I was afraid to do that because I thought that if I did, it would have ended the friendship. So in that attitude of this blotto, you can't fire me, I quit, I kind of like just nuked the entire friendship in like one massive explosion. And losing that friendship, which was a very, very close one, really knocked me for a loop that summer. I had been collaborating creatively with this person in multiple, the written word, video, all kinds of things. We were doing all kinds of great, in my opinion, we did some great stuff, and it all just melted down. And I blamed her, whether I communicated or not. I blamed her. And I think with the benefit of 2020 hindsight, I think it was a 50-50 thing. You know, there were two people that weren't communicating, and I was definitely guilty. And it took me a while to kind of come to terms with that and get over my anger. And at the end of the day, the good news is in 2025, I reached out to this person and we've reconnected and we've been talking on a regular basis again. And I feel like things are forgiven. So that's the happy ending. I don't think we'll ever work together creatively again. I don't think our friendship will ever recover to that degree. But the demons in me are from that nuclear explosion that I set off are now at rest. But when it happened, the very first thing that I did was I need an album to listen to. I need something to make me feel better. I need something that will help me purge some emotions, and I need something that's not going to remind me of this person at all. So the first thing I did was I said, well, let's go to my Canadian bands in my folder, because she was American and wouldn't have known any of these Canadian bands. And I was like, Arkells, High Noon. I only had one Arkells album called High Noon. And I was like, I haven't listened to that album in years. I remember it being pretty good. I put it on, and all of a sudden it just hit me. The lyrics weren't about anything to do with my situation, but yet there were ways to interpret them to be about my situation.
Right.
And it hit me. Even though I owned the album for years, it hit me. And all of a sudden I played it again, and I played it again. And I'm like, well, I need more. I need more Arkells. So I went out and I bought their second album. I'm having brain farts when I need to remember the names of albums. I went out and bought their second album. Then I went out, my good friend who's been on the show before, Nurse Cat, recommended me that I get the Morning Report album. And this trio of albums became the salve to my soul that summer. The radio saved my life tonight. The music really got me through that summer. And, you know, there were so many different kinds of songs and so many different kinds of emotions on those Arkells albums. There were songs that expressed my anger. If the Arkells are guilty of one thing, it's excessive F-bombs in their lyrics, unnecessary F-bombs. But at the time, I needed those F-bombs, right? And
I have more to that story, so keep going.
Okay. Anyway, the Arkells quickly became one of my favorite bands. I have all their albums now. I'm collecting the odds and ends, which is a challenge, an expensive challenge. But I've yet to hear an Arkells album I don't like. I think they're a magnificent band. I think, like Blotto, they're incredible players. Again, I'm drawn to the rhythm section. Absolutely fantastic. Bassist Nick Dika is absolutely one of my favorite bassists in the world. Much like Cheese Blotto is one of my favorite bassists in the world. So again, this band, it became a part of my soul. And I think it's really important just to bring it back to the mental health thing. I was in a dark place that summer. Johnny Metal was there for me. Jex Russell was there for me. They listened to me repeatedly talking about this friendship that blew up in my face. And, you know, I felt so derailed, especially considering that I had all these grand plans of working with my friend publicly and behind the scenes, you know. And music really is a salve to the soul. I don't know if a psychiatrist or a psychologist could explain why, but for guys like Johnny and myself who are geared naturally towards music, it really is a part of us. And I 100% recommend anybody out there who's not feeling great to put on a record. And sometimes it can surprise you. Going back to 1994, my very first girlfriend, actually, I broke up many times with my very first girlfriend, 3-4 times. And I remember one of the times I put on an album called Live at the Lyceum by The Cult. And it featured a lot of really early Cult, like Death Cult stuff, which I wasn't familiar with these songs. And they were so strange and unstructured compared to the kind of hard rock and metal that I normally listen to. And for whatever reason, that twisted, strange Cult music, Death Cult music, really connected with me. And I played that album over and over and over again. And it helped me express that, just drive that anger out of me. Because sometimes with this mental health stuff, just the anger wells up.
Yeah.
And you have to get it out. And whether it's physically with a punching bag, there's healthy ways and there's unhealthy ways to do it. And for me, the healthiest way to do it was to put on a song, whether it was a heavy song or whatever. And here's my confession. I play air guitar. Okay. I play air guitar. At the very beginning of this video, if you go to the very beginning, the 1 minute beginning before the theme song, there you can see me on the front porch playing air guitar.
Yeah.
That's my thing. It's what I do. It's physical. Sometimes I really feel like I've broken a sweat. The music is heavy. I feel like I'm getting my anger out. Maybe I'm singing along. Maybe I'm just thrashing along playing my air guitar. But at the end of the song, I feel better. Maybe it takes 2-3 songs. But at the end of it, I feel better.
Yeah.
And, Arkells aren't a heavy band. Blotto's not a heavy band. But sometimes you don't need a heavy song to thrash around. Sometimes you just need a powerful lyric. And there was a song, funny enough, Nurse Cat and I both connected with the exact same Arkell song called Making Do. For her, she lost her mother during a very difficult time in the pandemic in a city far away from home. And Making Do was an Arkell song that just seemed to make her feel better on that drive. For me, Making Do, there was a line in there, that a really angry, expressive line. You made some promises that should have been kept. And I felt that way with my friend at the time. I felt like you made me some promises. You told me this was for life. And now I'm finding out that it's not. And I was really angry about that. So that line, you made some promises that should have been kept, it really resonated with me. Now, again, I want to stress we've reconnected and we're back on speaking terms again. I doubt it'll ever be. I don't think you'll ever see her on the show again, but at least we reconnected, and at least I feel like I've forgiven her, and I hope she's forgiven me. And if there's anything else I want to say, no, there's nothing else I want to say about this topic. So we'll go to the comments real quick, and then we'll go to Johnny.
Okay.
Trying to get back up here to the comments. The song that got me out of being depressed was Loverboy. That's interesting. I guess because it's an upbeat song.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Everybody's working for
I think John and Richie said, hey, you know what, Troy? I'm going to tell you something. I'm not into current Bon Jovi without Richie Sambora. I'm not.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's a John and Richie thing. And I've been trying to get Peter Kerr to give Bon Jovi a chance, but I don't think it'll ever happen. Hey, man, I love Rush. BTO, I only have like a best of, but I have absolutely everything that Rush have ever done. Yeah. Everything that Rush have ever put out. Thanks, you two, for the stream. I'm sure it's going to help more folks than you. I hope so. I hope so. Well, Johnny, that's all I have for this show. So I'll let you.
So I want to bounce off your music thing, because you know just as well, and I've talked on this on the thing with Jex and Tim, that when I was up at my mom's house, music was not something I was listening to. I just wasn't doing it. I didn't want to, for whatever reason. And it took a little while to really get back into that swing. There's some other things that has gone on around here and whatever. And there was a day about, I don't know, I forget when it happened, but I was going through my iTunes and I noticed this playlist. I'm like, I was wondering what was on this playlist. And I started it off, and there was a show on VH1, and it had something to do with it was kind of like those rock band tutorial things where you get to jam. These musicians come together, and then the main, like you have a captain of like in this particular case, I think one of them was Kip Winger and one of those kind of things. And there was this band called, and they named themselves Firecracker Institute, but they had this really cool original song. And I won't go into the story of how I managed to get somebody. I somehow got somebody to send me an MP3 of it. Somebody I friended on Facebook or whatever. Somehow they got an MP3 of it. Anyway, Broadway. Thank you. Thank you. So this song, Bury Me Alive, comes on. It's like the first thing. And I'm like, and it's got this really heavy groove and a really heavy feel and the emotion there. And then it gets a little different. There's a lot of Wasp songs better than Blind in Texas. Lots of them. Anything from Crimson Idol, anything from Golgotha, anything from Unholy Terror, etc., etc. So the next song, Stand Up, from Fastway. It's off the Trick or Treat soundtrack. Stand up and be counted. Great track. Bring Me to Life by Evanescence. Okay. So all of the while, I'm like, I finally get up out of my chair here and I'm just letting this thing play. And again, I'm like playing air guitar and I'm thrashing about. And I'm thinking, this is the first time I have really felt the music in a long, long time. Couple more tracks. No Time from a band called Deliverance. This is a song basically saying, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that, but now there's no time. Because my time is up or something along that line. Blood and Iron from Kirith Ungol. That's a really charging track. But this is the one that really, the feelings really came out. Candlebox's You. And you talk about Arkells having their little F-bombs. The line in You, don't push your drugs in my face, push your drugs in my face, yeah, and the F-bomb comes out. Well, that was a time, and when I felt that line come up and I heard it, that's where I connected with a Marilyn Manson song, where he talks about, I don't have enough middle fingers to stick up in the air, and that's, man, being able to release that, I didn't realize how much release I needed to get from just doing just a massive flipping of the bird. And just, maybe I wasn't singing the words, but boy, I was sure lip syncing them. And, there's probably some people I would like to be able to say that to as well, but it felt good to do that. And, the playlist goes on and on and on, but I stopped it after like a couple of tracks. But boy, it just felt good to feel it. Jugs in my face. Go away, Sydney. But otherwise you're just going to be left far behind. Another Candlebox reference there. Anyway, yeah, I know. Well, that's just that. Well, what can I say, Sydney? But anyway,
listen, we're not advocating just flipping people the bird.
No. We're certainly not. But boy, if you just have something buried inside you, that something like that really does help you release it. Sometimes it's good. It is a good, healthy thing to get out. I don't profess to being an angry person. I don't like to be an angry person. I like to think of myself as a man of faith, but hey, I screw up with that too. And my daily life is always a screw up. But man, to feel the music again felt so good. And that's all I got. That's all I got.
Just to sort of expand upon that, I mentioned I spent all that time working retail under that horrible person, and I knew, first of all, if I had known that help was available, I should have taken it at that time in my life. That was a very low point. I remember I had a moment, and again, this goes to guys like Johnny who had a point where they just couldn't handle the job anymore. I had a moment where it was probably a Monday morning, and I called my dad and I said, "What would you say if I told you I was thinking about quitting my job today?" And he said, "I would tell you that's a mistake. It's much easier to find a job when you are currently employed. I wouldn't do that if I were you." And he didn't know, going back to what Dan was asking earlier, my dad didn't know what was really going on in my job. And he tells me that he wouldn't have given me that advice if he had known.
Right.
He would have told me, go ahead and quit. But I didn't. I didn't quit until I reached that absolute breaking point. And I lost my love of music. I'm working in a record store, Johnny. And I lost my love of music. I didn't want to listen to music. I didn't want to think about music. I didn't want to talk about music. I lost my love of music. And it wasn't until after I quit that job that I'm like, man, I'm enjoying listening to music again. And what happened was I found myself going back to my childhood favorite bands like Kiss and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Accept. All of these bands that I wasn't allowed to play in the record store because the fucking stuck-up snobs that ran that store were all into indie music and indie rock and all that stuff.
Right.
Crap that I wasn't interested in listening to, but part of the job is you have to play music that sells. But in 2020 hindsight, heavy metal, hard rock is one of the most popular genres in the freaking world right now.
Yeah. Where are some of those indie rock bands that were big at the time? Well,
you know what? The Killers were one of those bands that was really popular at the time. They're still doing okay, but Iron Maiden's bigger than ever, and Iron Maiden were forbidden to be played in the store. It was a girl, and she doesn't work there anymore. I'm going to put Broadway's comment up here. Another great conversation to all our friends in Kitchener, Guelph, Tirana, London, McGill University, Halifax. It's always okay to ask for help. You are not crazy. You're not alone. And again, that's that stigma, right? You're crazy. There's something wrong with you. No, you're not. You're not. There's nothing wrong with you. You're a human being. Our brains absorb damage just like your bodies. You have physical scars from a wound. Your brain retains. It's think about it. It's common sense. You learn, you experience. It becomes Pavlov's dog learned that when you hear a bell, it means it's time to eat.
Yeah.
If a human being if a dog can learn that, a human being is a much more complex animal than a dog, right? And when you have what they call triggers that bring back this past trauma, it can bring it all. Yes. And yes. I'm not answering the second part of your question, Sydney. You will be proud of me, Mike. When I worked at Loeb, I managed to switch the store Muzak. Kudos to Dan Chartrand, and thank you, Broadway, for watching.
Yeah, thank you, Broadway.
I hope you caught the Blotto segment earlier. I don't know. I think there's a few just minor bits and bites that I want to say to wrap up.
Yeah.
As said before, there is help available. Again, I'm in Canada, so help is maybe easier to access here than where you are in the world. I don't know, but in Canada, there's a 24-hour helpline. It's free. You call. You talk to somebody, you tell them what's on your mind, they talk to you, and maybe they tell you to get some advice from a doctor. Maybe they tell you enough that you feel better that night. Sometimes it's just enough just to talk to somebody and talk to somebody,
Yeah.
Comments. My wife rings a bell when it's time for me to eat. Oh God. Okay, Hey, we were the Elder of Rock. We were talking about music from the Elder early. That was in the first section. Sydney's banned from comments from now on. But as Johnny and I alluded to earlier in the show, there used to be and still remains some stigma. You're weak. You're not pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. In my day, we didn't have pills and we didn't have counselors. Yeah, well, in your day, people were freaking miserable.
Yep.
And I think
they turned to alcohol or other things.
Socially acceptable drug addictions, essentially, right?
Right.
And thank you to this person in Ontario. There's also a 988 for mental health emergencies. It's just a Google. and you can look that up. But in where I live in KW, we have mental health support that's for free.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are counselors that will do free walk-ins. I'm sorry if I'm speeding through these comments, but it has been a great show. I think hopefully helpful to people. So I guess if I wanted to close out on something, I'd say, buy a record. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of treating yourself with kindness. For example, something as simple as buying a craft soda. For me, buying a craft soda, treating myself to the kindness. Now, of course, you don't want to spend yourself into oblivion. I know Johnny and I have both gone on music splurges where it's like, holy crap, what did I just do? There you go, Marlon. There you go. But sometimes just showing yourself a kindness, maybe eating dessert before dinner, maybe watching a favorite movie. My good buddy Jex Russell was having a bad night last night. You know what he did? He watched Police Academy 3. And why not? Dare I say why not?
I'd go for the first one myself, but yeah, part 3 is good too.
I don't mind part 3. It's got Bobcat Goldthwait in it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris Sarr. Thank you, Chris Sarr, for your friendship as well. I have known Chris Sarr since kindergarten.
Nice.
He's one of my oldest friends.
Yep.
And Marlon says, get a haircut and get a real job. Be a lawyer like your big brother, Bob.
Oh,
and you know what, Dan? We're not alone. And I'm happy to talk to you about any of this anytime. As I said, I've blogged about it. Go back to the beginning of the episode and hear my story about Just a Boy. Go on my blog and read that story called Just a Boy. And it'll tell you about Chris Sarr and I when we were kids. I like to go bald, Texas Troy. Look at this. We're at the end of the show, and I'm getting all these. There you go. A butter pecan tart before supper. And why not? That's good. Any of them could fix a bad day. Absolutely. There's no such thing as a guilty pleasure.
What was the line? What's the line from Mighty Wind that Sven talked of? The one Boner, the Terry Boner mentioned. Something about sometimes I went home with just
nothing but dessert.
Yeah, nothing. But dessert. Yes, yeah, something like that. But
don't feel too bad. Just don't make that a regular.
No.
We're trying to also emphasize that physical health is also a part of this journey. And any counselor you talk to will ask you to, be physically active as well. And Johnny has done that, and I have been slacking off. But I did lose a lot of weight in the summer of 2023, and I think you can see it. Yeah. Okay. I hope we've left this on the right note. I want to thank again all of you for watching. And Broadway, actually, his email may have co-inspired this episode because he sent that awesome email a few days ago, and I really appreciate it. That's right. A lot of American movies show the Toronto skyline because they're filmed in Toronto. Star Trek is currently filmed in Toronto, as a matter of fact. Hey, Jake, not from State Farm, and perfect segue tonight. We're doing a second episode of Grab a Stack of Rock tonight at 7:00 p.m. We've got Virtual 11 in the 50 Years of Iron Maiden episode with Jake, not from State Farm. That's 7:00 p.m. I plan on being here in the comments, and I believe Jake will be as well. So we'll see you later on tonight, I hope. My goodness, I'm trying to say goodbye, guys. As usual, I always like to go out on a song, and unfortunately in might have been 2017. I'm not sure exactly what year we lost him, but we had a local treasure here, a guy by the name of Paul McLeod, and he was a good personal friend of my buddy, Uncle Meat, and we lost Paul McLeod. You wish that anything had gone differently, but Paul did this wonderful song that is actually recorded live in the streets of Kitchener, Canada, in one take, exactly as you see it. And this is a beautiful song. It always makes my mom cry. It's called Down on the Streets. So I leave you with this song, and I leave you with Paul McLeod to remember that there are alternatives. And please, if you have any questions, message me or Johnny, and we'll try to point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Take care, everyone. Have a great night. This is Paul McLeod. Rest in peace. Oh, I'm trying to do a nice ending. This is Paul McLeod. Take care, everybody.
all slow blues for years to drown. Old painted ladies on bright corners with broken hearts. Baby, she's been gone, and I can't do but wrong to my baby. Don't cry for me as I tear out my own